Okay, I believe we are live. So, I wanted to take a minute. I was helping my wife with her guitar lesson last night, and I got her watching a video of a guitar instructor about some fingerstyle picking. And I had to stop the video because I could tell how confused she was by what the instructor said. And he was a good instructor. I'm not here to beat up on instructors. I'm not your instructor. I'm not your teacher. A teacher would see you through from a certain part to a certain part. Now, that could be a never ending part. I know people. Matter of fact, I know a guy. There's a friend of mine who's a personal trainer, a certified personal trainer, and he's got one client that has been his client for over 20 years. And the guy told him, he said, "You're always going to be my personal trainer." And the reason, he knows what to do, he knows the technique. He pays my friend because my friend keeps him motivated and keeps him going and keeps him on track and shares things with him. And if he's doing a technique with his arms and one of them falls down, my friend will lift it up and set him back on his way. So, what am I? Well, um, I'm kind of a Johnny Appleseed, I like to think. Now, that's feel free to go to Wikipedia. If you're old like me, you probably got that in elementary school. Johnny Appleseed, who went around the United States in its early forming, spreading apple seeds everywhere he went, so that there were apples and fruits for other people, and so he helped things grow. And so Google Johnny Appleseed, Appleseed, and I hope that's what I am, because I'm not your teacher. If I was your teacher, I would be involved with you. I would be there to answer all your questions, which is what I hope. If you've got a personal guitar teacher, you have that kind of relationship, though not an unrealistic one. I remember buying into something years ago that wasn't guitar, and the guy, my wife immediately recognized him, and I'm gonna be very careful here. There are great guitar instructors. Y'all know that I highlight them. But this guy, and it was nothing to do with guitars or music or anything. And instantly, my wife said, "That's a snake oil salesman. He's got an agenda, and it ain't helping you." So, guitar instructors, if their heart is in the right place, they want you to learn. They want you to do better. I'm not your guitar instructor, but I can and hope to be a Johnny Appleseed. Now let me explain. Let me explain what I hope that I can do for you in your guitar journey. I've been playing over 50 years. Y'all know that. I don't get on here, and what little bit I do play, it's not much. I might play three or four measures or something like that. First place, I have this is still very painful. Y'all have heard me talk about the Dupuytren contracture. Um, if I play more than about four songs together with other people, my hand starts killing me again. That's getting better, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful I can play again. So when I say I'm a Johnny Appleseed, what I hope to do is to possibly help you with some technique, help you get over a hump. I'm going to give you a couple examples. Now, I was going to get automotive wire, and I decided against it. Automotive wire would look like this, except, it could look like this. It would have copper stranded wire here. When I was in the Air Force, I learned a lot about electrical wire, wiring, all kind of things. And when I got out, I was a diesel mechanic in training, even though I'd had diesel training, but I'd never had tractor trailer mechanic training. So I was fixing a big giant box trailer. It was actually a gooseneck. It dropped down with big giant doors that they loaded potato chips in. And the wiring had gone bad. So it was my job, and I had to punch a clock, and I had to punch a time card for the company's trailer I was working on. So I fixed the problem. There was a wire, and it broke in two, and I cut where it broke, and I spliced it back together and used what we call butt connectors. Basically, it's a piece of plastic that fit over this end, fit over that end. You joined them together. You took your wire cutters, and I had blue points back then. And up here, you would squeeze down, and the metal and the plastic would make that go away. The metal and the plastic would clamp down, and then you had spliced or binded them together. And so I signed off on this. I tested it. I put my test lights on it. And I sent it on its way. It wasn't 4 days later it came back, and my boss was not happy because we charged by the hour, in addition to parts and things like that, of my service as a mechanic. He was not happy at all. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Well, I got in there and I got my test light, and I had to find out where the break was, and it was right there again where the door, the back of the trailer, the door closed, and there was a light in the door. Well, remember, the door swings open and closed. Hang with me. I'm getting there. I think you'll see why this applies to what I can do for you with a guitar. And, you know, my boss's name was Henry, and Henry was an older gentleman who was a very kind man, but he was also, a matter of fact, he expected you to do your work, and he knew I did. I had a very high work ethic, and I looked at him, and I saw it where it had come loose, and I told him, I said, Henry, I don't understand. I clamped down on this thing. I used a good connector. I pulled on it. What did I do wrong? And he said, David, let me show you. He said, you need to remember something. This connection of two wires is in a door that moves, and it binds, and it's under pressure. So it's not going to take that little pull that you put on it that would hold most any wiring, and you'd be safe. No, this gets a tremendous amount of torque when that door swings open and closed. He said butt connectors are great. They stop a lot of corrosion sometimes, although you'll find corrosion built up there. So what he taught me, he took the wire where it was cut in two and where the butt connector was, and he cut it off on both ends to get the bad butt connector out of there. Now, remember, what I had done is taken the butt connector and butted that up. He didn't. He stripped the wire, and then he took the strands. Now, imagine the red and white here are strands, and he split them apart like this. And then he did the same to the other wire I was going to join together. Now, before I show you what he showed me that worked, and it worked for the rest of my career as a mechanic, this is not what this video is about. If anybody wants to get in here and start talking to me about the better way to, no, go away. This is an example of how somebody showed me another way to do something based on the circumstances and the variables that had presented themselves. So with that said, let me go forward. Please don't get in there with the comments and tell me how to wire an electrical circuit. They will never see the light of day. I'll delete them. So anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. So he took them and he put them together, and then he started wrapping them. And he wrapped, and he wrapped, and he wrapped, and he wrapped, and he wrapped. Then he went to the other side. Now look, I've got one side that's together. See that? And then he took the other two strands and he wrapped 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 and he wrapped. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go all the way. When he was done, then he took those two strands, and you see I've got them open up here, but I would have wrapped them all the way. And then he wrapped them together. And then he straightened out the wire, he bent it over, and we electrical taped that wire. And I got news for you. You couldn't put a 20 mule team on both ends of this wire and pull it apart. Now, rather than fire me for, actually, I had a job come back, but I didn't know. I didn't know how to do that. No one had showed me that. And I'm not going to knock the Air Force either. The Air Force had very high-end equipment, and they did some basic wiring strands like that, but I didn't think to apply it in this. So the Air Force absolutely had that kind of training. But you know, they were real big at the tractor trailer shop I was at using butt connectors and terminal connectors. So I did. But this was one instant where it didn't need to be done. And that's what I hope I can do with your guitar journey. When I see something that you may be frustrated, when I see the way I see a lot of people taught something, and it's not a reflection that they're a bad instructor. It's not. You know, I started out at the beginning, I was talking about why I did, what made me think about this. So my wife is a natural at finger style picking. She's just a natural. So she's wanting to learn another finger style technique. And that's not what this is about either. So what the guy starts doing, the instructor, he starts going, and he was telling her to use the thumb and to pluck the fifth string, and then to use the index finger and pluck the third string. And then he was telling her to add in, after she had done that for a while, thumb, one, thumb, one, thumb, one, thumb, one. Well, in the first place, if you were getting classical guitar lessons, there's a reason the right hand is Pima, P-I-M-A, plectrum, index, middle, and I don't remember what A stands for yet. You're welcome to jump in the comments and show me you know more than me. In fact, please do. Other people would like to know that because I didn't Google it and I probably should have. But so he's going thumb, one, and then he tells her to not just hit the fifth string with the thumb, to hit the sixth string. And he starts going thumb, one. He hits the sixth string and says thumb, two, thumb, one, thumb, two, thumb. And my wife is just freaked out. She's like, whoa, wait a minute. And I understood why she was freaked out. If you start throwing ones and twos and threes at it, and you're talking about index fingers, and then all of a sudden you do thumb, one, thumb, two, and you're not defining it, thumb on the fifth string index finger, thumb on the sixth string index finger, thumb, one. How about, that's why in classical they would go P for Pima, and then they would define which finger and what string. And I can get a lot deeper in that, and I probably didn't elaborate that very well. But what I had to do was get my wife to understand when he was saying thumb, one, thumb, two. She thought he meant one, two. Down here with these fingers, one, two. But he was meaning thumb on the fifth, thumb on the sixth, thumb on the fifth, thumb on the sixth. Where she thought, because he had just talked about it before, one, two, thumb, one, thumb, two, thumb, one, thumb on another string, two. It's confusing. And things are confusing when you don't have a reference point. Let me show you something. have you ever stood in front of the mirror and you needed to clip a nose hair? And so, and you probably forgot this, the very first time you ever did that. So here I am, what I just pointed at, and I'm seeing in my webcam me, but it's reversed. And if you're sitting at a mirror in the bathroom and you're going, and you think, well, okay, and you start trying to use the picture you're looking at to get to the hair, you'd go the wrong side. It's just like when I hold up a piece of paper sometime. I have to reverse this in my head. I do. I have to reverse it because if I want to go to the J in Johnny Appleseed, see, I'm going the wrong way. And then I have to make myself trick because I'm looking at it on the screen and it was there, but it's not there. It's there. And y'all will see me do, you'll see lots of people do that sometime. And it's no different with a guitar in how you're staring at me. All right? So there's an E major chord lighting up on my fret light. But I also have to remember that the way you're looking at my guitar. And so that's why I did a video on everything from tablature to turning the guitar the way that I would be looking at it and then coming around the way you're facing me. It's little things like that that can drive you crazy. I've got an upcoming video for y'all where I'm going to put this up here, some tablature I made for a little riff run. And if I was to try to go to tab and see I've gone, now I have to back up. Because I have to remember, I'm looking at it different from the way you're looking at it. So when someone tries to tell you, we're going to do the diatonic scale and we're going to start in A, do you know what diatonic is? That's where we got to stop and learn something. So that's where I hope I can be a Johnny Appleseed. I remember when I was in high school, I learned how to be a mechanic. I learned how to be a professional mechanic in the Air Force, and it was the best training I ever had in my life as far as detail, learning how to eliminate systems that didn't matter. I will always regard that as some of the best teaching that I ever got in my whole life was my Air Force training. But the mechanic training that I got when I was in high school was because I didn't have any money. I didn't have the money to fix something. I even remember my dad, God bless him, in heaven. My dad was a steel worker who grew up on a farm. So he worked 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. My dad wasn't around much when I was growing up because he was working. I mean, he was working his tail off as a steel worker, and it was hard work. He used to come in, and the back of his neck would have just little pits in it where the slag from the furnaces had burned into his neck. I mean, it was... The man was a beast. I mean, he was just a physical beast at what he endured. And I've always been told I have a high work ethic and I work hard, but my dad could work circles around me. But at any rate, so my dad didn't teach me a lot about cars because he wasn't around. So I went to work in my car after football practice. I worked at a retail department store. I worked in the toy department and housewares, sold vacuum cleaners and things like that. I had a flat tire. So I jack up the car. I'm like, well, I can do this. I jack it up and I grab the lug wrench and I start trying to turn, and it's just turning. And a lady walked by and she goes, young man, can if it won't upset you, can I offer a suggestion? Yes, ma'am. At this point, I please offer a suggestion. I would be most gracious. She said, lower the car back down and let the tire get against the ground. Then when you turn the lug wrench, it won't spin. Then jack it back up. Thank you, ma'am. Well, now she could have been a jerk. Just like guitar people can be jerks. She could have said, you're not very smart. I see people do that all the time on the guitar. So I want to be Johnny Appleseed. And it's not that your instructor or the person you think the world of showed you wrong. They showed you a way, one way. Learning resonates differently with different people. Some people have minds that can absorb words. Some people need visuals. Some people need examples. I've always felt like I had the capacity. I'm not saying I'm a good one, but I had the capacity to be a teacher. I told y'all I have a computer background. I actually owned a company called the PC Teacher years ago, and I taught Blue Cross and Blue Shield, MCI. I taught a bunch of them until a giant national computer teaching company came in, and buddy, I hung my head out and got into my newspaper business because I knew better than to try to compete with them. And I still felt like I was a good teacher. But one of the best compliments I ever got, I had a lady in my class, and we were trying to explain hard drives and file structure and creating files and folders. She just couldn't grasp it. And I could tell she was getting really frustrated. And so my mind works. I'm like, okay, you need to reach this person because she's frustrated and you need to help. Well, I had a 2-drawer file cabinet next to my podium. And the podium was kind of wide. It wasn't one of those little, like a preacher podium. It was a wide podium. I reached over and picked up the file cabinet, put it up on the podium, and I said, this is your hard drive. I opened the file drawer and I said, this is one of your folders. Actually, I said, this is your computer. I opened the drawer and I said, this is your C drive. Opened another drawer. This is your D drive. Then I pulled out a file, and she went, oh my gosh, I get it. The fact that an instructor showed you how to do a chord a certain way, and I may show you a different way, doesn't mean they're a bad instructor. It doesn't. I don't ever want to convey that. That it means that maybe I can show you a different way. Maybe that person that passes by that helped you while you were doing something, like my boss did with the wiring example that I showed you. Now, of course, he showed me for another reason. There was money at stake, and there's always some money at stake. But so anyway, these are little things that I think I might be able to do to help you. Now, for instance, I just watched a young man. He's one of my guitar-worthy sites. I've not kept up with him. Kevin Nickens, Nickens. And I was just sitting there, I'll eat lunch and I've got YouTube on my TV. And so his video popped up. It was over a year ago. It was a beginner guitar. And I started to go by. I was like, well, that's what I do. And I thought, no, let me see. I like this young man. He laid out a course of a planned attack of learning guitar. Let me see what his first lesson was. Folks, I couldn't have done a better job than Kevin Nickens did with that beginner guitar lesson 1. I mean, I just could not have done a better job. He presented things beautifully. Would I go back and change what I do? No, because I think I'm reaching people with my way, where he had another perspective on a couple of things that I thought was very smart. And I encourage you, when I post this video and show that it was recorded live, I'll try to put a link in the video for that. But I mean, so that's also part of what I want to do for you, and I hope to be able to on YouTube, is show you resources that will help you. You've heard me say this before. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't. Why should I? There are plenty of great YouTube guitar teachers out there. I want to enhance the wheel. I want to, when you're stuck, when you're frustrated, there are little things I can show you, but I'm not your guitar teacher because I'm not doing you justice if I'm not there for you through the whole way. I'll bring up things. Now, I've tried to throw in some regular things like weekly chord progressions, and I'll throw in some work about scales. But I encourage you to find some of these guitar-worthy sites. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. You get what you pay for. I even have a video that talks about that. But some of these lessons are magnificent. But you keep learning. What I really hope is that you learn a little something from me. You can disagree with me. I try real hard not to go, this is the way. I just don't believe in that. I believe we reach different people different ways. When I do guitar talk, I talk about my guitar collection, why I did it. I realize some people might, even knowing the reason I did with my hand, my family getting back to playing after not being able to for 5 years, I know some people view that as vanity. I get it. You have a right to the way you feel about what you feel. Your feelings are your feelings. So, I don't ever want to come across like I have a better way than what your instructor or your lesson, and if you have a personal instructor, I've talked about that too, how important. I think you can learn a lot on YouTube without having an individual guitar one-to-one trainer, but I think once you reach a certain level, having a one-on-one trainer, this is just my personal opinion, can go a long way toward lifting you up, because they're going to be able to assess what you've learned, where you are, and then they can help. Now, when I put out a video, I don't necessarily know who I'm helping. I had a person the other day in the comments wanted to know about strumming. Well, I'll throw some things out about strumming, but they're not carved in stone. You know how I had a video this morning about playing Happy Birthday, and I said, and I encourage you to start out, just strum the first chord until you can get it right. But that's not the way I teach strumming. I think if you get in a habit of only making a down strum, that can become a bad habit. I mean, a strum, there's a time to do a down, down, up, up, down. But remember, every time you go down, you have to come back up to get to the next down. Many times you go down, why not strum coming up? But there's a time and a place and a rhythm to do that. Different sounds, different rhythms, variety, spice of life. So I hope this helps kind of clarify what I hope to do for y'all with this channel. This channel helps me too. It helps me to get back to the techniques that I know are important. I'll catch myself. I'll pick up a guitar, and I'll go from an electric like here to a nylon where I'm gonna do some serious finger style, and I'll get lazy and I'll let that thumb drift way over here, and then I'll catch myself and go, okay, David, straighten up. Get that thumb across from the fingers. You're fixing to move to a nylon 2-inch nut width, and you're going to need that technique to be right. Does that mean that you're never going to see a good guitarist that has his thumb off to the side? Well, of course you are. In fact, there's some chords I make that I even pull the thumb over the top of the neck and mute the 6th string. It gets back to that circumstances. It gets back to why that wiring on the door didn't work with butt connectors and terminal connectors, because it was under a lot of strain. It warranted a different technique. So I hope I help your guitar journey. If I and I realize sometimes you got to put up with my hodgepodge, and I don't think I'm gonna apologize for that. I am what I am. I realize I can talk, I can go on and on, but I feel like if I don't cover something, I'm gonna miss somebody, and I'm just trying to help. So yeah, thank you for being on this channel. It means a lot to me. It encourages me. I said I was going to start asking y'all to like and subscribe. So, hey, if you feel like I've done anything to help, like and subscribe. What does that do? It helps build the audience, helps build the channel. And it helps get a blessed guitar journey out to more and more people. So, and you doing happy birthday with your family might spark your grandchild to want to play guitar. How do you know? Or it might just make somebody happy. So I hope your guitar journey is blessed. Hey, and most of all, thanks for being here, and happy picking.